Kitsune ult here, okay? Kitsune ult Blossom. When they come around the corner, we do it on corner.
Yeah, I'll shout it too. It looks like a good time.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Nice.
Hello there, hello there.
Huge combo.
What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. I'm so excited to be able to talk about Overwatch meta again and discuss changes, theory craft. You guys know that nothing makes me happier in this game. So we'll get a chance to review some gameplay that I recorded in the preview session, playing against a lot of other Overwatch creators. And today we'll focus more on the new passives. Two of them being the 30% ultimate on hero swap, but mainly the DPS passive that after you get an elimination, you get a bit of a win more mechanic where you move faster and reload faster. Do I think this is OP? We'll return to that. Try to watch the gameplay and notice when I get an elimination that I do speed up. Does that matter? When does it matter? And surprisingly, when the reload speed also helps. Come back to that point in a second. First, I want to talk about the ultimate exchange rate for all heroes now. I've mentioned this in other videos, but having played Overwatch so much recently, the truth is in Overwatch 2, needing to swap is a disadvantage, and getting to a good swap usually just lowers a disadvantage. It isn't an advantage. I'm still getting used to the cadence of having a bit more, let's say, support ult earlier than you think. I don't know, maybe you start off on Kiriko for one team fight, and then you're like, well, I actually want to win this game. She's kind of hard to play. Maybe I'll go to a hero I'm more reliable with, like Zenyatta, and you go from having one powerful offensive ult to then one powerful defensive ult, or at least a bit faster, right? Rather than a full reset. I think this is good because it smooths out some of the ult advantage in the game. If you win a team fight, gain ults, and the enemy feels the need to swap to counter you, having ults or more ults than them makes a lopsided advantage that you used to be able to snowball really hard in Overwatch 1. It's less so in 5v5, of course. But overall, I would say I'm most happy with how it sort of reduces that snowball advantage, giving the team that feels the need to adjust a bit more chance. Like losing any ult automatically isn't an advantage. It's just softening the blow of swapping, and I think that's good. Now, I'm going to go back and forth on the DPS passive now. On paper, it sounded insane. Move speed, 25%? After elimination? Well, there are contexts where it is insane, but the most surprising thing to me was the realization of what it feels like to play that in a game that has so many speed boosts anyway. This is where I think the devs' heads were at with this idea. Because now we have Lucio, Junker Queen, and Kiriko ult, all options to give you extra speed, and then just Kiriko's playstyle being in the game where she has a cross-the-map teleport. It's hard for damage now to lock you down as a support. There's enough defensive options or tools to escape. Like supports now have a lot of agency to choose how they're going to play, and no longer is it the like alpha or beta version of the game where supports were sort of hiding for their lives. The game's a lot better balanced now, and maybe even so much without the speed boost, it might feel like a character like Kiriko is just always untouchable for a DPS. Possibly. Not sure I believe that, but maybe that's sort of where the devs' heads were at, where even with the OP speed passive damage can get, well, Kiriko can nope out of there, or has an immunity tool. So supports have a lot of powerful things to not get farmed by damage now. That will be ultimately the reason why I think damage having a ridiculous passive on paper isn't going to break the game, but it definitely does make certain things super powered. It makes my personal playstyle a little OP, and I'm grinning ear to ear because this is how I want to play Overwatch anyway. The biggest criticism you'll hear from intelligent high-level players that worry about this kind of mechanic is that you don't really want to make a win more type mechanic in the game, because once you start to get an elimination, being literally more powerful than the enemy, chasing them down, it makes it easier to go from winning a fight to fully winning a fight. But I found this a little bit interesting considering there's a lot of stages of the map, like particularly objective fights, that are really hard to finish the enemy off an entrenched position. Certain characters that take good advantage of the move speed and reload speed now will have a better clear time on the objective stall. So that's like a interesting bonus that like, well, we don't have to sit here and deal with infinite respawn waves. The team fights kind of conclude a little bit more in those scrappy scenarios when you need your damage to finish up the checkpoint fight. So that's good. So as everyone would probably have guessed, the biggest winners from the DPS passive is characters that need to close the distance or at least distance control, and where reloading is a big deal for them. But I will note that I think the reload aspect of it is the weakest part, but considering when you're comboing with things like Kuriko ult that improves your reload, and there are some characters like Reaper who have the need to reload quite often, and it does offer some downtime. Having more uptime on your damage does matter, but I think there's a lot of characters it just doesn't matter. Dragon Blade is the biggest one for this, because not only does Genji have a quote win more mechanic with his Swift Strike replenishing on a limb anyway, Dragon Blade itself gets a massive power boost based on move speed. This Nano Blade combo wasn't perfectly executed by my team. We didn't quite get the nano on me before I went in, but notice how with the extra move speed, I can just inch away from Echo using her beam on me. That distance control becomes a really big deal. And I play this way with like a lot of characters, but Genji specifically is one that wants to go in and then come out. A cool part about this is it rewards the aggressive player, whereas the 10% speed passive they originally had was a uniform thing for DPS all the time. That kind of allowed them to get positioning and jockey for positioning as much as they wanted. Whereas this passive only matters when you run at the enemy. And something that I think makes it a little bit more fair is that in order to get in a limb, you probably have to use your cooldowns anyway. This is where I'll start to somewhat disagree with the win more idea, but for the most part, you have to use some tools or some resources to go get a kill, or even try to. It's just the case that in Dragon Blade, well, you have infinite resources because you keep swinging and move faster, and well, that means things trying to run away or outposition you, it's like just not gonna happen. On top of the extra speed boost you already get in the game. And I also sort of feel like because there's options for speed boost, you're just gonna kind of notice that there's a lot of ways that characters can speed up that are more powerful than the DPS passive anyway. The thing I think we'll want to monitor is it unfair on ranged damage characters especially? In this clip where I gained the move speed, I would have loved to see KarQ's point of view as we're all jumping around moving faster. And then before you know it, I'm in his face, and well, Genji already liked that matchup. Did he really need it to be that much easier? And that's where I think this passive maybe harms the game the most, because tanks kind of don't care about your distance control usually. The positions they hold, they either stay there or they have better movement than you anyway, and then supports have enough tools in order to keep themselves alive. Really, the biggest gap in any matchup is a DPS character who can actually use the passive versus a DPS character that kind of gets nothing out of it. That's the area that feels unfair because tanks and supports are strong in their own way. After, of course, all the series of balancing Blizzard has done for Overwatch 2 so far. But a thing I think they might want to consider is just the reload speed. Maybe that's fine. Maybe the speed boost is too much. I think reloading faster on an limb is pretty cool, where the speed one is going to boost Genji, Reaper, Tracer, characters that are constantly wanting to control distance and go in and out. The reload one can possibly also benefit a ranged character. One that I think gets a surprising boost from it is Pharah, where moving faster, maybe she dodges a bit and can get to cover. Pharah's reload downtime is quite significant because she has one of the lower capacities in the DPS category, so she does a lot of reloading. So that means she can lay down more hurt just a little bit, right? Not quite a rate of fire increase, but over the course of an entire fight, I think you are going to get more rockets out. What number is it exactly? I can't say. A few more probably, but that does matter. That's a boost of damage, right? That didn't exist before. I think Reaper is the best of both worlds with this DPS passive because he both wants to close the distance and also has 8 shots. So there's cool things you can do, like get one elimination, pop the faster reload as you close the distance so that you're like really controlling how much damage you have. Because Reaper, a lot of times you might not even want to shoot if they're too far, but having a lower reload time means you might be able to sneak one in as you close the distance with your faster move speed. So Reaper is kind of silly with this one, but I think Genji is the biggest winner because he's just so much better of a character overall with his higher skill potential and Dragon Blade. But don't discount Death Blossom either, which is another ult that as you lifesteal through the team, getting that first limb, then you can move a little faster and catch up to more targets to get more lifesteal. It just makes it more effective, more flexible, and more likely that the enemy team is going to get rolled over. Overall, I'd say I don't hate it, but I might just be biased because the extra power made it feel like I could compete with some players that maybe I shouldn't have been able to. It's like this passive was directly guided towards how I like to play with my feeding shenanigans. I guess I'll be happy for season 1, but maybe the hit scan players that you're flanking on might not prefer this first season with the passive this way, but the devs are open to look at it and reassess, so we can see what we like and maybe tweak it around here or there, depending on what gameplay we want. I'm of course going to play all 3 roles, but I have a special spot for this season, I think, with the DPS passive being for feeders like me. So I might try to get more time in on the damage role. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. We'll have more videos about Overwatch 2 coming, possibly daily if I can manage it. I've been loving making content again, and if you want to see our upcoming videos, be sure to leave this video with a like to give us support, as well as click the bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you're notified directly to your cell phone when our new videos come out. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.